Yeah.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City County Joint Work Session. This meeting is called to order. I was just told that our clerk wants everybody to introduce themselves, so we'll start with you there, Mr. Lehman. You have the floor.
For the record, that's not actually what I intended, but
Okay.
Okay,
Ryan Leland, Public Works Director for the city of Helena.
I'm Ed Coleman, Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Helena.
Jenny Chambers, County Public Works Director.
Stephanie Becker, Great West Engineering.
Greg Cornwell, CFO County.
Dan McCauley, County Grants and Purchasing Director.
Teresa Ortega, Good Samaritan Ministries.
Shannon Dinsdale, on the Housing Navigator of Good Samaritan Ministries.
Roger Balch, Chief Administrative Officer for Lewis and Clark County.
Tim Burton, interim city manager from the city.
I'm still going interim, what's that? Okay, whatever.
Melinda Reed, City Commission.
Andy Shirtliff, City Commission.
Wilma Collins, Mayor, City of Helena.
Candace Payne, Lewis and Clark County Commissioner.
Tom Rock, Lewis and Clark County Commissions.
Sean Logan, Helena City Commission.
Andy Hunthausen, Lewis and Clark County Commission.
Corey Daly. John Campbell on the party.
Sheila Dennison, City Finance Director.
Online, Mr. Mayor, we do have Commissioner Emily Lee.
Go ahead,
Sorry, I'm
Commissioner.
not there in person. I'm stuck in Missoula.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
That might be a technical difficulty in here. Give me just a moment, Commissioner.
All right, welcome everyone. Well, thank you for participating in the City of Helena City County Joint Work Session. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's and county effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the afternoon stage. Minutes, February 7, 2023 were received. Do we have any comments, suggestion, addition? If not, the minutes will stand as submitted. Joint discussion, Housing Navigator Program update, you have the floor. And Macaulay.
Good afternoon, Ann McCauley, County Grants Director. I'm happy to introduce Shannon Dinsdale, who is the Housing Navigator with Good Samaritan Ministries, and Teresa Ortega, Executive Director. Quick background on the Housing Navigator program. This has been in place since July of 19 is when we went out for the request for proposals to find a contractor to provide these services. This is a joint program between the City of Helena and Lewis and Clark County. Each entity provides $30,000 a year towards this program. Good Samaritan Ministries was a successful proposal from that procurement process. And they actually started the program in January of 2020. For the last, I guess we're going on nearly 3 years now of that. And Shannon's going to provide some updates on where they're at right now.
Hello, thank you for having me speak tonight. I'm rather new to my position, but I think in the few months that I've been here, I've tried to create a little bit of traction in my program that might have been lost prior to maybe just in the past year since COVID or 2 years since COVID. I think that had kind of a bigger impact than was expected. The Housing Navigation Program since January 2020 has helped over 300 people in Helena, families and single individuals without children. Either we brought them into the program and either helped them find stable housing. 103 clients were helped to find permanent stable housing with the Housing Navigation Program. The remaining were either referred to outside programs or due to maybe not being actively employed, were unable to be admitted into the program. My program is specific to a specific population of people. It is for the 30 to 80% area median income population. They do have to be currently employed. It's kind of to help what we are considering the quote unquote working poor right now. They're just kind of slipping through the cracks. These people are working really hard to find stable housing and to maintain it. But it's been really difficult just because with each lease renewal, the landlords and property management companies can by law increase the rent, and they have been, whether it's $25, $100. I seen the highest was $300 in 1 month. And families are just one financial crisis away from homelessness. And this is right in our own little backyard of Helena. And I also do serve the Lewis and Clark County. So I see a lot of people coming in from other states who want to move here for work, but are unable to. They come into my program. I have helped since November 21st of my hire date to date. I have helped over 12 families and individuals find us and secure permanent stable housing. I've made relationships with 3 different private landlords, and 1 big property management company here in town. And that helps my clientele and the vulnerable populations have somebody to advocate for them and to humanize the application process, because a lot of people, they're submitting all these applications. There's a really high demand, a big competition between one another. And they're just kind of getting pushed by, they're not individualized or humanized. And people who have criminal backgrounds, who are working really hard to rehabilitate themselves, are just really kind of having a hard time finding someone to help advocate for them, and also to find resources in the community for housing. And they do come into my program, and I have been successful. I have one in particular individual. He's going to be being released out of some Department of Corrections, a free release program, and he's trying to get ahead of it. He's like 2 months before his release date, and so he's really trying to actively find housing. And so these people, I encourage them to get, professional references, character references, either with their probation officer or their job. Somebody in a professional setting to help advocate for them on a humanized basis. We just really want to humanize each individual application process. And I think that this program is really helping to do that. I will say that there are more people that I could be helping if the parameters of my program were to be expanded a little bit. A lot of people are coming into Good Samaritan and they're below the 30 area median income. A lot of these people have disabilities, either physical and or mental health. They are retired, they're elderly population, they don't know where to go. And also, people just considered in the unsheltered population. Homelessness is really prevalent in this town, and it's picked up since I think that the pandemic started. But this program has kind of helped bridge that gap a little bit. For at least 103 people in the community, and 300, like I said, I think it's 302 people or families, individuals that have came into the program since January 2020. So I just really want to advocate for my program, that I am trying my best and the program is being successful. But I think that if we could allow me and the program to help those under that 30% area median income, we could really expand the resources and housing solutions and have advocacy for each person that's in that vulnerable population. And if it's not me, I have the people, the community partners to do so. I get a lot of referrals from God's Love, Family Promise, even the Rocky Mountain Developmental Council's Head Start program. They too, just the housing program, we work simultaneously, but I stay with my clients until they find stable housing, which is completely different than any other program in Helena that I found. So that's another thing that kind of sets the housing navigation program apart from other housing stability plans and programs in Helena. I think that that's about it. I just want to kind of reiterate that it is a basic human right to have shelter. And I think that all people, all humans, all people of this earth, especially in our backyard, our own town, our own community, this is my hometown. I've been here 25 years. And I really want to see kind of all socioeconomic status, people of all backgrounds, deserving a safe and stable place to call home. So I thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Are you done? Comments or questions from the commission? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Hi there. I'm new at this. I always ask questions. My first question is, as you know, I'm a county commissioner. Is this program active outside of the outside of Helena? Do you go to Augusta or Lincoln or Wolf Creek or any of the other?
We want to, I would like to expand further out. I went to a couple of meetings up at the Capitol and I've been making kind of some networking relations with, I met a gal with the Housing Coalition over in Missoula. I have a connection that I'm gonna be looking into. She is a faith leader with a Catholic church over there. We do have that faith leadership on our side with the Good Samaritan Ministries, we're associated with the diocese. She was the one that kind of got the tiny homes up and running in Bozeman, and that was very successful. And so I would like to meet with other housing programs and people who have been doing that. We are, I would like to spend more of my time, like I said, I'm rather new, going to Wolf Creek, Augusta, these surrounding areas, Townsend, Boulder, Basin. I'm from Boulder. And I do realize a lot of people are experiencing really housing insecurity in those small towns that are kind of often forgotten. So I do want to spend more time moving forward, focusing on that.
So the answer is no.
Well, I don't know. I can't
That my
say
question
before,
was-
but I haven't been able to spend time. No.
And I appreciate your comments about the Basin and Boulder. However, this is a city county program. I don't think it's a regional program. Therefore, we need to focus on our local socio-political boundaries and work on that. Another question I had, tell me what you consider to be stable housing. Does it have to be in place for 30 days or 30 years or?
6 months to a year. A year is ideal because that people can help kind of get on their feet. A lot of them we're shifting into kind of a new time where the Montana Emergency Rental Assistance is no longer available for families. A lot of people were using that as an ability to gain kind of traction in their life where they were trying to rehabilitate themselves regardless of what kind of the troubles they're facing. Some people, they had a health condition, had a baby, they can't work, or just kind of had something unpredictable happen and it set them into a position of vulnerability. Do you have anything?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Payne, I'd like to address your first question.
Certainly. Thank you,
Regarding the area that this program serves. So yes, it was the intention of the program from the very beginning to serve Lewis and Clark County, many of those communities you named, as well as the city of Helena, and not communities outside the county with this specific funding. Good Samaritan, though, as Teresa can speak to, does serve a lot of the residents from those other counties. Obviously, Helena is the hub for many of those communities, but they have other resources that they utilize for those services and not funding.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead,
Commissioner
Commissioner.
Dean also has her hand raised.
Okay, so you go ahead and then we go to commission.
Thank you. Just a good question. You mentioned the below 30% income level. In your experience, if you were able to serve them, are there places for them to be housed? Do you feel like there is a place for them to be matched? It's just lacking the navigation, or do you think that would be an additional issue, the lack of housing to put people in?
I was called directly from Fire Tower Apartments asking for people to submit applications because they needed attendance. There are places to house people, especially elderly and people with disabilities, but a lot of those people aren't able to do the paperwork, which is where I come in and kind of advocate for them and help assist with that.
Commissioner Dane,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
you're still on mute or something wrong?
I apologize, Commissioner. I am hoping that perhaps the speakers are malfunctioning here in the room. Can you try and speak again?
Can you hear me now?
One more
Well, just
time?
do the sign language.
I'll type it.
Mr. Mayor, if it pleases you, I can have Commissioner Jean
Please.
type in her question.
Can she hear us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you type in your question, Commissioner? Any other comments from other commissioners? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you, Teresa, for taking this on. And for share from our side of things, appreciate that. I have no problem serving, I mean, I think we have housing needs from homeless all the way to, a firefighter who can't find a house that needs to get in there, or a teacher or whomever, so that, the workforce housing. In that regard. So, working with people across the entire spectrum seems reasonable to me. The one thing I wanted the commissioners and from both sides of the fence here to consider is that we've been contributing $30,000 each annually to this important program that's been working and helping people get into housing. And it isn't paying for housing for those that maybe don't have as much history. It is really paying for this position to help navigate people toward housing. So one person, it might be, hey, go down and submit an application on housing. Another person might be, let's work with a realtor or a property owner, or a apartment building owner or something like that. So it depends on the needs of the person that are coming forward, I believe. But one thing we haven't done as the two commissions annually since it started is we have not built in any cost of living type of growth there. And I think that's important, just as housing is gotten bigger, we have. So many of our programs that we fund, there's this, we apply the cost of living percentages or something to that we do annually. And so I would just want us to consider that as we go through the budget process, that $30,000 a piece may not sustain this program in the future. It might work for this year, but it might not work in the future. And I'm sure they're struggling to make sure everything's covered with the benefits and all that. And then my other question, Mark, might be for maybe for Teresa, but for both, is that how you complement some of this. You find someone that say I'm moving here from Kalispell because I got a teaching job in the community. I just can't find a home. I've turned to you for help. What happens with what are the resources? And then maybe from someone more vulnerable, someone who's just finished MRSA payments and says, I got to find a place. How do you help them, and what resources do you use?
So I think the beauty of this program is that Shannon has been able to come through and build even stronger connections with the landlords, mostly private landlords, that are willing to work with the clientele we're serving through this. So there have been times that they've lessened some of the rent a little bit, so we can get people in because they know us, and they also know that we're going to follow this client alongside until they're stable. And when we talk about places stable, she gave you the time frame, but places stable is also when you take care of your household, being able to pay your rent on time, and we're teaching those skills that are reasons for a lot of people being kicked out. So I think also another good point of this is that how many people in the community are being sent to Good Samaritan for this housing or the rental assistance with or being referred to our website or the weekly site she puts up of open housing or. So there's all of that, but then if someone needs support through the mental health, we've just been working with a gentleman that does need that and needs financial assistance. We're able to get that for them and be a mediator between that person, the landlord, and Good Samaritans to get their needs met.
And for the rental assistance, if I could just add, that's not from my program. That is from Ara Babcock, our assistance coordinator at Good Samaritan. And we work in tandem together. So I find the housing, she helps get the financial aid to get them into the house. And so we work as a team together.
Another point is that we've raised a little over $5,000 for this to help pay for different things the client might need to get into the house, which most of them have nothing.
And most of this goes to application fees. A lot of the property companies and landlords, the minimum that I've seen is a $25 application fee. The highest is $55, and that's per adult in the household. The most that my program has assisted with was $110 just for application fees, and they didn't even get the rental. So it was really an unfortunate
It's a
situation.
real issue.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different variables at hand that I'm working with kind of in the program, but it's definitely something that I'm working with different community partners. And like you said, it's case by case, individualized for the needs of each person, so.
If I can add one more thing, another part of this program sometimes things come out of nowhere and they work. We have our place as well. We have many people down there that are not employed, but are trying to find housing. And it's been very easy to say, we've got jobs at Good Samaritan. If you start working at Good Samaritan, Shannon goes down there Thursday and she can work her programming. So we've hired 3 people from our place who are homeless that are now working with Shannon for housing to find them.
And I did house her, so we're, and actually two, we just housed the second one, and so I have one more. Very close to finding housing, so it is working, and people will come into my office and say, I don't have employment, and I say, are you willing to work? Do you feel good enough to work? Are you able to? And they say yes, and I go get an application, and we just set them up right then and there, kind of with that process to help move forward and to better their lives, so.
It's a step-by-step process. We're working it with love, our place to employment, and then getting independent.
Thank you.
And the answer to that,
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, just to put it in perspective and for the people that are listening in, what does 30% come out to in an hourly wage or in a monthly wage?
So I'm not the best with numbers, Chairman, so I will kind of give you an example of something that I've worked out mathematically. Our minimum wage is $9.95 an hour in Montana. If an individual is working 40 hours a week, approximately they're bringing home at a gross income $1,500. I'm going to say $1,500. It's like 62 or 92. I can't remember quite, so don't quote me on that. But the average cost of rent, according to rentcafe.com, which is a statistical kind of housing website, the average cost of rent alone in Helena is $1,400. These people don't even qualify for application in a property management because they have a 3 times the rent requirement, which means if the monthly rent at a house is $1,000, to even qualify on paper, they have to have a gross income of $3,000. A lot of people are working full time, but they're working as a barista or a server or like a retail position in town. The real backbones of keeping our business and industrial kind of populations afloat, and yet they can't even afford housing in their own town, and they are working the 40 hours. So does that help answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Hall, if you want to know the exact number, for 30% AMI for 2021 for a family of 4 was $21,200. For a single individual, it was $14,090.
And someone making $10 an hour is at 20,800. So, yeah. So that's about where we're at.
Well,
I think it's important that people kind of put that in perspective.
I agree.
Teresa and Shannon,
Mr. Mayor,
just want to thank you. Yes, 1 minute. You can talk now, huh?
I think it's solved.
Okay, 1 minute. I just want to thank you all for the work you do. Because I know it's not easy. And when you can put a live body into a room. Wow. I know what it feels like. So, thank you.
Thank you, sweetie.
Yes, Commissioner Dean, you have the
Thank
floor.
you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry for the difficulties. First, really grateful for this presentation. I so wish I was there in person right now. I think your passion for the position is obvious, and you are definitely the right person in it right now. One thing I wanted to ask, well, actually 2 things I wanted to ask. What would it take to expand the eligibility? You discussed that you're not able to serve a lot of the people that come to you because of those eligibility requirements that we have. And then my second question, if you were to expand those eligibility requirements, would we be meeting the demand that you're seeing, and what would it take to do that locally?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Dean, I'd like to address that first. I don't have a copy of the contract in front of me, but the way it's written is the eligibility is actually employment, with the target population being 30 to 80% AMI. There's not a hard and fast eligibility at that 30%. That was just the intended target population for clients when the contract was first put in place in 2019. So I just want to put that out there first, but there is an employment requirement for this program.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Thank you all for what you're doing at Good Samaritan, what you're doing at the county. Thank you very much for being here. Like, when you mentioned the 30 to 80% of AMI, how many people in our county or in our community meet that standard? Do we have a number or a census on that?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, I don't have that percentage, but I could get that number for you.
Sure. And then I got a follow-up as well. In terms of expanding the parameters, are you looking to, beyond that, looking at funding increase from us, from both parties? Any help with connections or advertising? Is there something we can help with that? Or any of those?
Yeah, I think
Mayor, Commissioners, I'm trying to get this right. You know, it'd be nice to have for the cost of living increase. We feel responsible to fundraise for some of this as well. To find the different segments of the community who people are very keen to helping with housing for people. I was just telling you, we're looking at a couple of new grants because we do know started out as a pilot project, but I imagine that's going to take about a year to get through. But we're seeing more and more for housing needs in the grant wise. So we get that.
Thank you. Okay, guys. If we have to get out of here, if the county commissioners have to get out of here by 5, we gotta move. Do I have any comments from the public? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no public comment online.
Moving along, ordinance establishing burning regulations. Chief Campbell, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Wanted to share about the recent action that the City Commission took to adopt the burn ordinance for the city of Belen. All of the other Class 1 cities in Montana have burn ordinances, and now Helena does as well. Primary function there is to reiterate the elements of the fire code that inform the citizens how the burn ordinance can be applied. What's unique about Helena's burn ordinance is it aligns us with city commission, or excuse me, with county commission activities when stage 1 and 2 fire restrictions are implemented. So now the concern about having to take independent action from the commission from the city commission every single time burn restrictions are implemented, those are alleviated. And then the predictability for the citizenry, not necessarily having modified their activities depending on which side of the line they are on a map, we felt that was something that would be advantageous to this commission. On top of which there's so much open lands and acreage included in the city of Helena's city limits, it aligns all of our lands with the same level of restrictions, and hopefully puts us in an advantageous position for responsible burning and restriction. I believe that's it, unless they're engaged.
Comments or questions for Chief Campbell? Public comments.
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Thank you. Moving along. Integrated Solid Waste Management Plan, Director Leland and Jenny Chambers, Director Chambers. So,
thank you, Mayor, Commission. This is the start of an integrated solid waste master plan. It is a joint master plan that we are working with the county, because the county does own landfill and we own the transfer station, and we have several agreements, interlocal agreements in place where we work as a system to be able to take care of the solid waste collection both inside and outside the city limits into the county. We have hired and selected Great West Engineering to do the master plan, and we are in the beginning stages of being able to collect information of where we're gonna go with this master plan, and that's very important to us. So I will turn it over to Stephanie Becker, and I know Matt is on line from Burns and McDonald too, so.
You have the floor, Ms. Becker.
We're good for a second. Zoom is not our friend today. I apologize.
Hey, I already told the public, we will fall into a little, come on, speak. There you go.
You try again. Have it on the magnets. Yeah,
You want us to come back to that? Okay. City County Partnership in response to COVID-19. We have Amanda Opitz and Ms. McCauley. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I wasn't sure if Manager Burton wanted to speak.
Please.
Mayor and Commissioners, at the last joint meeting, there was talk about the possibility of future partnerships, and as a part of that, we thought it would be important to look at partnerships that the city and the county have had of late, and then open it up for whatever discussion that we want. So I know that Ann and Amanda have put together a very impressive list of projects where the city and the county have partnered in the last couple of years, and with that, I'll turn it over to Amanda.
Thank you, Manager Burton, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. So before you is our report on specifically partnerships through CARES and COVID funding. You'll see that it really hits a broad spectrum of community needs, not only from internal projects that were funded both with the city and county funding, but also there's a list in the back of the narrative portion of the report of community organizations that received funding from those sources as well. If you have any specific questions or anything you'd like to add, please feel free.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, just to echo what Amanda said, this is specific to COVID relief. And it was our best effort. There's more funding in here. As you're all aware, there was multiple streams of funding through both the CARES and the American Rescue Plan Act. That's not entirely captured here. But it was our best effort at the time in the moment to capture what those partnerships have been.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the commission? Public comments. Madam Clerk,
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any public comment online.
did you want to say something? Commissioner?
I did, just really briefly,
Please go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I could. And just that. It's I think Mr. Burton alluded to this at the outset in his comments, but this is wonderful and great. And I think it's really important to review what we've done, where we've been, and the places that we've worked together, especially for these dollars that come in, this one-time funding from the CARES and ARPA money. And I guess my question remains, and the answer may be no, or there isn't, but my question remains, are there further opportunities to do just that, get the biggest bang for our buck? So as we proceed through our budget process here and our ARPA obligations, CARES Act obligations, whatever we have left, are there places we can work together to make the biggest impact in our community? So that really means.
Were you going to answer that?
Well, I was gonna add to the question in case there was an answer, but I think you had mentioned that you had an ongoing list.
We do.
Is that, do we have that? Because I know we had a list from before, but it wasn't clear to me if that was comprehensive or if it's new list. for the opportunities to collaborate moving forward. We know what our list is. I'm not sure we had a final version of the county's list to look at in order to identify those opportunities.
So the list that was provided at the last joint city county meeting are projects that are already been obligated. So those projects are, have been given the thumbs up. We have what we're referring to as our parking lot list, and they are potential projects. The county is going through our budgeting process again with our ARPA funds. We just released request forms out to our departments. And those are going to be due at the end of March. And then after that, working with our county commissioners, consider what kind of projects we want to solicit from community organizations. That parking lot list is a varied group of entities. You're all aware that there's a lot of needs in our.
Thank you.
It's not a final list by any means.
Mayor Collins.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you. So maybe I could add just a little bit more information for the conversation today. So where the county is that the commissioners have about very roughly $2.5 million left of ARPA direct allocation money, which we are focusing on for the upcoming budget session. And that money needs to be obligated by 2024 and expended by 2026. So looking forward, and I really appreciate the list that's been shared with you today, commissioners. But if you don't mind, I'd like to point out on the colored sheet that you have, the green and the yellow and the blue. When we look forward, Mr. Burton and I have been talking, for instance, about the possibility, if our elected officials agree to it, of allocating some money towards some capital repairs that are needed for the Law and Justice Center, which we jointly occupy with the City of Helena's Police Department and the Sheriff's Office and the Coroner's Office. Municipal Court, all occupy that building. So that's certainly a possibility for partnership in the future between the city and the county. If you look down on the list, the 1, 2, 3, the fourth item listed that says CCB/LJC building improvements, that stands for the City County building and the Law and Justice Center building. So we're talking about jointly funding some improvements that need to be made to that building to serve our citizens in partnership. And then if you continue down that page to the sixth item that says Fairgrounds paving /Henderson-Custer. We're actively having conversations, our staffs are, about a partnership of trying to leverage some existing ARPA money. The county commissioners have allocated $1.8 million for paving improvements to our fairgrounds. But what we're discussing in concept is whether or not we might be able to work together, the county and the city together, to leverage that money, utilizing possibly the city's resources. You have paving equipment and resources, and perhaps using that, and in exchange for that, you know, a fair exchange where we could work on a possible the property needed for a design for a roundabout right there where Custer and Henderson come together in front of the fairgrounds. So to go to that question about possibilities of future partnerships, first of all, I would like to express that the concept of working in partnership between the county and the city is one that we fully embrace. And the commissioners have shared with me that we want to be open to fully embracing that where we can. And this list indicates that we've certainly been doing that. In fact, if you look at the bottom of this list, you'll see over $10 million worth of various projects that we've been working on together and would like to work on together in the future. So I just wanted to point that out to all of you today, that it is something we're talking about and something we are fully working on. But when it comes, I'm sorry to be a little bit repetitive, but when it comes to the amount of ARPA direct funds that we have left that need to be obligated by 24 and spent by 2026, the county has very roughly $2.5 million left. We have additional monies left in our CARES funds that we have and other reserves that we have, but when it comes to ARPA direct allocation, that's the amount of money that we're focused on for the next round of applications in the county budget process. So just a quick update for you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
Just very briefly, Mayor and Commissioners, tomorrow afternoon, the City Commission will convene and have further discussions on roughly 2.6 million in ARPA dollars that they'll be looking at, projects that they're aware of and understand, and see where that conversation goes from a policy perspective tomorrow afternoon. And we'll keep your staff informed as to what type of decisions that they under the city commission.
Any other comments from the commission? Any public comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have no public comment online.
Ms. Becker, are you back on board?
Well, I can just wing it, right?
No, no.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It is blowing up.
Yep, Alex, are you ready to share?
A little more technical difficulty.
Sorry, yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Stephanie Becker with Great West Engineering. I do have Matt Evans with Burns and McDonnell online direction, Mathiasen. But Burns and McDonnell was sick today, so Great West Engineering partnered with Burns and McDonnell to do the City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County Integrated Solid Waste Master Plan. I'm here to give you an update on what we've done so far. Next slide, please. So we developed a purpose statement for the plan. The goal of the plan is to create an efficient, comprehensive system that will improve waste diversion and provide convenient waste disposal services at the best price for the people of Lewis and Clark County and City of Helena. That was City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County staff, and then the steering committee. Again, this is a partnership with the city and the county. We anticipate completion of the integrated solid waste master plan by March of 2024. Next slide, please. So far, we have done a few tasks. We have done tours of the facilities with the steering committee, and Burns McDonnell also came out and we toured facilities, get an idea of what the existing infrastructure is and how the existing facilities work, including the public and the private facilities. We've developed a communications plan. We've gathered the steering committee's comments. We've pulled them to see what is of interest of them and their constituents. And then we gathered all of that, tabulated those. So those are going to go, those will help us with our alternatives analysis. And then next slide, please. So in that communications plan, we are now in the first phase of the survey, and Matt will go into that in just a minute. The steering committee is made up of a county commissioner, a city commissioner, both the city and the county public works department directors, a member of the solid waste gravel board or district board, a member of the citizen conservation, a private hauler, recycler, an at-large city and county resident. Next slide, please. I'll pass it over to Matt and he can discuss the communications plan. Is he there still?
Yeah, Mr. Evans, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So just walking through the communications plan, the goals include optimizing public engagement, broadly reaching those that are going to be impacted by any changes to the solid waste program. And we want to create clear talking points for steering committee members, city and county leadership, and others involved in the development of the integrated solid waste management plan. And really, ultimately, we want to facilitate support for the final scenario or the final alternative as far as the decisions that are made as part of this planning process. The audience that the communication plan is for is the public, businesses, schools, hospitals, and other institutions. in the city and county, and anyone else that may be impacted by the integrated solid waste management plan. Next slide. So the communication phases is broken into three phases. And this really just goes along with the project as a whole. Is kind of broken into 3 projects. So the first phase is gathering general feedback. Then we look at different scenarios for waste, recycling, diversion for the city and county. And then ultimately we come to a preferred scenario. So next slide, please. So the first phase is geared towards the general public, as well as those that are currently managing solid waste and recycling and doing other diversion processes in the city and county. And then we want the communication plan and this gathering this general feedback is really communicating what is the integrated solid waste management plan, as well as what it is not. And we want open-ended questions to the public to figure out what areas of the public is interested in changing or keeping with the solid waste program currently. Next slide. So as Stephanie mentioned, we are in the first stages of this communication plan. The Be Heard Helena site currently has a virtual survey in place, and you can get that using a QR code that's shown on the screen here. There's physical copies available at the transfer station as well as at the city and county building. Mailed notices have gone out to county residents, this month's utility bill will have the QR code and the survey information to city residents. There'll also be social media postings, and in April we're doing our first open house to gather feedback from the public. This open house will be in person, but it'll also be hybrid, so you can attend it virtually as well. Next slide, please. So after phase 1, we'll have all that initial information. We'll create several scenarios for waste management and recycling in the county and city. And these scenarios will have different, we'll describe them, we'll describe how they will be implemented, the pros and cons, and we want to gather public feedback on these different scenarios to understand what they like and don't like. And so a scenario can include just different ways to do waste collection, different recycling methods, yard waste management, composting, as well as other infrastructure improvements. We'll also be talking about what some of the cost implications of these different scenarios will be as part of phase 2. So then phase 3, next slide, please, is just really when we get all this feedback on the scenarios, we understand what is important, what fits within the cost parameters of the community. We go about informing the public of the preferred scenario. Of that selection of the preferred scenario chosen from the feedback in phase 2, we include an in-depth scenario description of this scenario, and we really just want to highlight why that program or why that scenario was chosen. Next slide, over to you, Stephanie.
Our anticipated schedule is listed up there. Right now we're in phase 1. We're just gathering that general feedback right now. We are going to have that open house in April. At the end of all of that, we will start phase 2, in which we will start diving into alternatives. Then probably September, October, we'll have another open house. And then that's when we will send out the phase 2 questionnaire. And then we'll, after all of that information is gathered, then we'll jump into phase 3. So then by March of 2024, we can have another public meeting to tell everyone what was decided, what we're going to present to the commissions for their information and their decision. Next slide, please. We did develop some key talking points so that we're all on the same page. If I would appreciate all of you to read those, and so that we're all sending the same message to the public. You can read them there, but the goal is to create efficient, comprehensive system that will improve waste diversion, provide community services for the best price of the people. I think that that's the most important message that we can send out. I've gotten some phone calls because my phone number went out on the county postcard. I haven't actually gotten that many questions, but I've gotten a few comments, what is this about? So we have developed or we have identified spokespeople for the city and the county, which are the public works departments, or depending on, you know, where the residents live. So I'll be sending those out, but I have fielded a couple of those phone calls. There actually isn't as many as I thought there would be, but I do know as of yesterday morning, we already had 400 responses. So that's excellent, because I know people just got them on Friday morning, at least for the county, and the city should have gotten them about then also. So I feel like 400 people responding to that already, that's awesome. That's very significant. And we still have through the end of April to gather all that. That was all we had. Is there any questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Evans, this is Sean Logan with the City Commission. In the steering committee, if you recall, I asked you relative to the survey, kind of what your response rate is. I think you might, within a community, could you share that?
Yeah, I think I do remember you asking that, Commissioner Logan. Yeah, with a 10% response rate would be wonderful. It would be great to get. It sounds like a low number, but it ends up being quite a few people, and that's getting, you know, that would be a great response rate if we could get somewhere in that neighborhood. So, you know, we're off to a good start, and I know people are going to be advertising this or communicating it more. So hopefully we'll continue to get good survey responses.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Follow up. And I asked that question sort of in a leading fashion, just to sort of encourage everybody around the table to get the word out. I just saw on the city PIO put essentially the word out with the QR code. So please share that widely. As Mr. Evans said, 10% doesn't seem like a lot, but we need to get as many people informed of this as we can. So I'd appreciate it.
I can follow up with that, Commissioner Logan. So like the city sent out almost 12,000, and then the county sent out almost 12,000. So it's 24,000 of these that went out. So 10% is 2,400. We're only at 400. However, we're already at 400 also. So it's probably doable, maybe, if we just keep spreading the word. I threaten people in my office, you shall do this. You shall do this. But there was already a lot of people that had gotten the postcard and done it over the weekend. So it's working.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick, I've had a lot of people ask me about this, and I'm trying to give a couple of quick examples. What does this mean for you as a resident? Could you give us a couple of examples? It might impact rates for tipping fees. It might affect recycling. What are some of the very tangible, specific things that we can say to people who are watching this meeting? What does this mean for you?
So it could mean that there's curbside recycling for everyone in the city and the county. It could mean that there's changes to, and these are just a whole bunch of different options that have been thrown out there, and we're going to dive into them a little bit more. It could mean yard waste collection. It could mean food waste collection. It could mean more composting out at the landfill. It could mean infrastructure improvements at the transfer station to help diversion rates, make it a little bit more convenient. So there's a lot of different things that can happen. Things like almost everything's on the table, and that's what we're doing right now, is gathering that feedback to see what's important to people. What are they, and it could affect rates, but that's part of all of it.
Thank you. I think that the point I was hoping to make is for people, a lot of people think this is about the sewers. So for people to understand, solid waste management doesn't always resonate for people at the household level. What does that mean for me? So I think to the extent that we can help, that these are the sorts of things the survey will ask you and we can get input on, helps people understand why they should take it. So thank you for that.
I have a question for you. I sit on the Augusta Solid Waste Board, And I know it's recycling up there is a really big deal. So and we have government days on Friday and it's coming up. And I'm wondering if could we arrange for someone to do a short presentation at our Friday meeting? Is this something we could work with, or Jenny, can you?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, great question. So a lot of the conversation that this is the integrated solid waste master plan for both City of Helena and Lewis and Clark County. But our focus right now is predominantly within the City of Helena scratch gravel district for the county, and then Marysville. Augusta and Lincoln do have solid waste district boards. They do have services that are needed as far as recycling or other garbage disposal type services. But we're trying to figure out what resources we would need within our current county operations, which is the Lewis and Clark landfill, the City of Helena's transfer station, and other recycling efforts here, as far as alternatives that would help us with our infrastructure in place within that location. But then long term, we would certainly look at how those services could be utilized within the county as a whole. Waste disposal in Lincoln and Augusta currently go to the Republic Services, which are in Great Falls or Missoula. But we've been having conversations within the city about would there be a possibility to have a long-term interlocal agreement to collect waste from Augusta and bring it to the City of Helena's landfill or Lewis Clark landfill through the transfer station. That collection services versus going to Missoula or Great Falls. It's a pretty complex discussion, but from a holistic, just to mention the integrated solid waste master plan. But to answer your question on recycling, I think we could certainly partner with the City of Helena and some of the recycling efforts to give a more global presentation to the Augusta Solid Waste Board on what the cost of recycling is, and more discussions on that commodity and what services they would like to see and the cost associated with that. If that helps. The recycling is not connected between Augusta and City Helena necessarily.
And I thank you for clarifying that. And I'm aware that it does go to Great Falls from Augusta. But if it is an integrated solid waste plan, maybe do we have more than one interpretation of integrated?
Commissioner, you're correct. So yeah, it's integrated from a solid waste management perspective. And I think we need to ensure that we have the services here with the Lewis and Clark landfill and the city, and what those alternatives might look like for collection that would help us with those outlying board districts, which would include Lincoln and Augusta.
Does this also include not only the integrated as far as collection, but what about selling the plastic or the newspaper? Is that included in this plan?
Mayor, Commissioner, looking at it is that gets a little too much into the weeds as far as selling it. It looks into when we look at recycling. We're going to analyze universal recycling, city, county, into the scratch gravel district out there, and then who gets the commodity? If it goes private, is it going to stay public? We are going to look at those alternatives and where it's going to go in there, as far as what commodities are going to go to and what we can get for plastic at this time. That's another step after we decide, are we going to be a public collection, private collection, doing curbside collection. Wherever it goes, the commodities go up and down so much.
Yes.
That it just is, that's a little too far down in the weeds in this, but we do take into account and analyze it as far as curbside, the roll-off collections, situations like that we will be analyzing.
Okay. Thank you, Jen.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioner, also just from an integrated approach, we've talked about do we need to increase the city recycling locations so that people can drop off recycling points within the city and county? Wolf Creek has also had discussions in the past years as far as similar to the Marysville collection site, which is part of Scratch Gravel District. Wolf Creek might also want to have a waste disposal location to dispose of garbage at their location. So that's where I'm saying it's an integrated approach, but each one of those alternatives would have a different solution associated with them. As far as creation of a special district or assessment of rates for for dollars. And we really kept it really limited to Great West to don't get too far down in the weeds on rates and assessments and the cost associated with tipping fees. That right now we want to hear from the public on what services they want to get from our solid waste management services, so that we can determine, can we increase and add those services? And then we would figure out on the back end collectively how we would establish rates and assessments to help pay for those services, or what options might exist then.
She's so smart. Thank you.
Commissioner Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a question about some of the alternatives that'll be proposed after the survey. And I'm wondering, when those start being presented, will all of that include the data behind like waste diversion rate estimates given alternative X, Y, or Z? I guess that's my question.
Sure, Stephanie.
Commissioner, we'll try and work together on this. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, sorry, sure. I was just gonna say, you know, in the descriptions of the different scenarios, as we envision it, we would include some information with regards to, if you were to put in curbside recycling, based on other communities, what could you expect for increases in diversion quantities? So those type of numbers we plan to provide based on other other communities.
Okay, I think that'd be great. This is just a comment. I think that when folks are considering, not just the commissions, but I would say just people in the public, I think it's really helpful if we can say, this is the level of service you will get, and this is the impact to waste diversion if our rate is this X amount compared to another amount, because I think, I have a feeling many people are going to be willing to pay maybe a little bit higher rate if they know that we are able to, you know, provide these other services to increase our waste diversion. And I think that that's a really important distinction to provide to the community when we're considering what this looks like in the long term.
Certainly.
Mayor, Commissioner, we'll take a look at that. One to keep in mind is there's a lot of decisions that go into that rate. Is it going to be curbside? Is it single stream? Is it universal? Is it source separated? As far as diversions and what you get and what that rate is going to be, and is it going to be publicly collected? Is the city of Helena going to collect it, or is it going to be private? So there's a lot of variables in there, but we will come up with, you know, what the ballpark figure is, such as we did in the strategic master plan, and use that too. So we'll take a lot of information, but there are a lot of variables and policy decisions that need to be made by the commission.
Great, thanks.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Madam Clerk, do we have any online?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I do not have any public comment online.
Thank you. For future agenda needs, I think we'll be passing those to Nadine from the county. Nadine, if you're listening, I apologize. At this time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commissioners? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, I have no hands raised online. I have no written public comment.
Thank you. Any final comments from the commission? Going once, going twice. So.